So while the engine is at the machine shop, I've got the radiator out, the cooling fans out, and I'm going to start taking apart the old engine from the top, getting the intake manifold off and just getting some room underneath the cowl, because this guy's coming out through the top, not through the bottom.
Look out!
Alright, I've got the radiator out. It's in good condition overall. These tabs here are where the cooling fans sit, so they just pop right in, and these are your transmission coolant line fittings, and of course this is for your lower radiator hose, and that's for your upper radiator hose. Now this radiator is a single wide core. In other words, these tubes are just one row of. I'm used to seeing 2 and 3 rows. And that may be the way it is on the V8 cars, but the V6 cars, this is what you get. Now these have the plastic tanks that fail over time. And before I put this one in, we're going to give it a good clean out. I don't want to put that rusty stuff in my new engine. And these little tabs here are where your AC condenser sits. So it's not bolted, it just sits in those. That's pretty good. Now if you have to take off your cooling fans, it's pretty simple. This holder down here is for your lower radiator hose that comes from this side all the way around to the other side of your V6 engine. And you've got a connector underneath here and here, which is kind of a pain to get out. You're going to have to use a small screwdriver to get in the side on the top and lift up as you pull it. Kind of a pain. You would think they would have something you just push with your thumb and pull out. Then you're going to have these for your harness. Just a couple of those, and then this just slides right out. Just like the condenser, these fit right down into there. So you can change these individually. They have bolts. You can change them out if you need to, which is good. You don't have to change the whole thing. This is going to get a good cleaning. With the fan shroud cleaned up, came out pretty nice. This is ready to be put away for installation later. Quick note on removing the upper intake manifold of the Series 1, 2, or 3 GM 3.8 liter V6. Throttle body comes off with just 3 bolts. 2 nuts and 1 bolt under here for some odd reason, which is an odd size. Thermostat housing goes here, just 2 bolts. This is your EGR connection. And you've got 8mm bolts that go all the way around, 4 on this side, 1 in the very back, and 2 10mm bolts on this side. Over here you've got 3 8mm bolts, and 1 right there, and 1 right here. And it comes off just that easy. And of course you have a vacuum line on the back for your booster. And there it is. Isn't this the weirdest looking thing? Guess that's how you get 200 horsepower and 225 foot-pounds of torque out of a V6 with no power adder. Where is my pocket screwdriver? Humble. Now I can get to the upper intake manifold, which looks like it's 4 bolts on each side, plus there's some down in these wells here that you got to be aware of. These are all 13mm bolts. I can't wait to see what the inside of this engine looks like. Find out what the heck was making so much noise. Because of this cowl sticks out so far, gonna have to get the rest of these with a ratchet, maybe an impact. Giving her the beans. These are fuel injector retainers. You want to make sure you get all those off so you don't have one fall down the engine. You'll be doing an engine tear down if you drop one in there. You can't retrieve it. In the back, there's one down in this opening. It's not a port, but it is an opening. I fought with that before. This engine is not going back together, so I really don't care what happens to the bolts. If it were going back together, I'd darn sure be bagging and labeling these like you've seen me do before. There's always one more. Always one more. Okay, that should do it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. There's always one more. It's always hard to tell if the intake is stuck down with the gasket or if there's a bolt somewhere you missed. Here's something you really need to know. This is the bracket that holds on the coil pack. Coil pack sits on top of it, and that guy is bolted in the back, and it looks like this will not come off unless that is off. Unless there's a bolt somewhere. Okay, one of the more difficult parts of this job is getting that bracket off right here that holds the coil pack. It's got two nuts in the back that are 13 millimeter you have to get off, and it's very difficult to get to the lower one without pulling the valve cover off. So we have a coolant pipe in the front, which is way down in here. You can see the shiny part right there. Right in there is a 90-degree elbow coolant pipe that goes into this from here. So that is not allowing it to come straight off. So you got to get that coil pack bracket, mounting bracket off, so you can slide this back a little bit to get it out. Okay, I cannot get on the lower bolt for this bracket, so I just moved it out of the way, and the intake comes right up. Now it needs to go back a little bit. There might be a better way of doing this, but this is not going back together. There we go. Okay, she's out. Isn't that the weirdest looking thing? Makes sense, but it sure is weird. Okay, this is what it looks like in the lifter valley. You want to see something weird? This balance shaft. This is kind of new, to me anyway. You don't see these on any older V6s or older V8s, that's for sure. Not exactly sure what it does. I believe it's got something to do with harmonics. So I've been told that this can go away if you put a plug in an oil hole in the back somewhere. Not exactly sure, so I'll look into that. And this is your I can't imagine having to change this thing just because you got a coolant leak. You have to go through all this mess. Okay, with the intake manifold off and the valve cover off, I'm going to go ahead and take the front portion off that houses the water pump and get that out of the way, as well as the bracket on the side with the oil filter, and disconnect the exhaust and the oxygen sensors, anything electrical that's connected to it, as well as the power steering pump. And then this guy is ready to come out, and like I said, she's coming out the top. Time to get this guy up in the air. If you own one of these cars, you can expect to spend some time doing repairs underneath. Don't forget your eye protection. And your jack stand. Factory exhaust system's out. I am going to save the cat. Meow. Time to remove these awesome exhaust manifolds. Glass headlights. One of the last cars with it. Very happy to have that.